the Stu Basement Tapes. I'm Alana Duffy.
And I'm Alex Wiedinghoff. And we're here at the 170-year-old York County Jail. Right now, it's the home of Science East.
Science East helps people of all ages understand science through interactive exhibits.
But for more than 100 years, it's where the city of Fredericton locked up its criminals. Let's go inside.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.
At the top of the show, we have 3 stories about crime and safety.
The infamous rape trail. Students demand upgrades on the dangerous path.
Laptop theft. UNB security has students on alert.
Copper wire theft. Thieves target expensive metal at a risk to the public.
But first, we have 2 stories about some of the most vulnerable people in Fredericton.
As the weather gets colder, some of the city's homeless end up sleeping in jail cells like these. Others go to the Fredericton Emergency Shelter. As Viola Press found out, the men's shelter is more of a safe haven than it once was.
This is where many of Fredericton's homeless come to eat. Next door is where they can sleep. The men's emergency shelter has been operating for roughly 30 years behind the Victoria Health Centre on Brunswick Street. But it hasn't always been this calm. 2 years ago, drug abuse and violence was common here. Passers-by were assaulted. Residents were threatened. Ted Ellingham is the shelter administrator.
There were even cases in the past where the money collectors for the drug dealers were coming right in the door and going right up to their beds and saying, you know, pay up or suffer the consequences. And that's not happening anymore. We're not allowing that either. So for that purpose, it's safer for that reason.
Since 2008, provincial funding and local donations have been used to buy 13 new security cameras. Staff has increased, rules have tightened.
If there's any kind of criminal activity at all going on, we call the police immediately, and we've been doing that now for the last 2 years, and it's cleaned right up. It's stopped. It's not like it was at all.
This shelter houses 20 to 30 people a night. Many have poor mental health or drug problems. Some stay for a couple of days, others up to 7 years. Several regular residents say they feel safe now, including Murray Ettinger.
When I go to bed at night, I feel safe. I don't sleep with one eye open or anything. I just go to bed, go to sleep.
Homeless who break the rules are kicked out and often end up in places like this. They live in the city's back alleys or under the bridges. So while indications are that Fredericton's shelters are safer, statistics show that fewer people are using them. For Stu Journalism, I'm Viola Puss.
The big news in Canadian courts at the moment is a decision that has left Canada's prostitution laws hanging in limbo. We've got an expert witness in that case right here in Fredericton. She's Gail MacDonald, a sociology professor at St. Thomas University, who thinks that the ruling is a good thing for New Brunswick sex trade workers.
It'll definitely make sex work safer. When you strike down the provision that you can no longer have this keepers of a common body house, that means that sex workers can live together and or work together. And that will mean less sex work on the street.
Our next story takes us from danger on the streets to danger on campus. Students call it the rape trail. As Michelle Toomey found out, the university is trying to make the path safer.
This is where up to 350 students walk every day and night. Gustavo Chavez is a 4th-year communications student who used the trail for his first 2 years. He was beaten up twice while using it. The first time, he was kicked by someone who approached him for a cigarette. The second attack was even worse.
I hear go, and I turn around like, go what? And that's when I got pushed toward a snowbank. And first thing I see is I'm on a snowbank, basically trapped, ready to fight, but then I see in front of me 5, 6 guys, so I'm like, uh-oh.
Chavez wasn't seriously hurt, but he doesn't walk the trail anymore. In the past couple of years, the university has cut back the brush on the trail. They've also put up streetlights in the most heavily wooded areas. The head of St. Thomas Communications, Jeffrey Carlton, says the university is hoping to do more.
Now, you can always do more, and it's something to be vigilant about, so we're still looking at things that we can do with regards to better communications on informing students about any safety concerns, but also along the trail we're looking at some upgrades with regard to phone lines and things like that.
While there have been no incidents reported so far this semester, there were several reported this summer. In the meantime, there's no emergency telephone on the rape trail, like on the path to the library. The Students' Union is working with the university to come up with a solution before this winter. For Stu Journalism, I'm Michelle Toomey.
When UNB Security isn't patrolling the trails, they're looking into reports of stolen laptops. This is after laptops began disappearing from campus in September. Eliza Mosher has the details.
Students at the University of New Brunswick are stressed about more than midterms this fall. They're concerned that their most valuable possession might be stolen. Since the beginning of September, 6 laptops have gone missing from classrooms, labs, offices, and even locked vehicles. Last year, only 3 laptops were stolen within the school year. Laptops can cost students more than $1,000 and often store years' worth of papers and research. Some students now think twice about leaving their personal computers.
It's kind of a small town feeling here in Fredericton, and it always has, prided itself on being a safe place to be and a safe place to leave your things, so it's kind of disappointing.
Or I've even went downtown to go for lunch, and I've come back and everything's completely fine, but now I'm a little more worried about it.
The director of security at UNB, Bruce Rogerson, said he doesn't know who the thieves are, but suspects they are stealing the computers to sell them. He says university campuses are more vulnerable to theft because students see it as a safe environment. UNB Security has close to 60 staff members and 24/7 service. Rogerson says this makes UNB campus one of the safest in the country.
Take anything that affects our students' ability to focus on their studies very serious, and theft is a very serious offense. Right?
UNB Security has been working with the Fredericton Police and Crime Stoppers to find the thieves. They are reminding students to lock their car doors and keep valuables out of sight. For Stu Journalism, I'm Alyssa Mosher.
Selling stolen copper is a booming business, but our reporters found out that stealing the wire can be costly and dangerous. Hillary Page Smith has more on the thefts and how it can affect you.
Copper wire theft is not an obvious crime. On Charlotte Street in downtown Fredericton, passers-by have to stop and look closely to see the damage. On this street, and many others, copper wire has been stripped from its rubber casing and sold for profit. This precious metal is expensive, making it a target for thieves. Copper sells for about $3 a pound. The higher the quality, the higher the payout. Best Metals manager, Ian Brown, said it is almost impossible to tell if copper has been stolen or gathered legally. His scrap metal dealership processes roughly a ton of copper a week.
Copper all looks the same. It looks like copper pipe, copper wire. It's very difficult to identify unless there is some distinguishable mark on it.
NB Power, frustrated with copper theft, implemented a new technology to help prevent it. The company now has data dot on most of their materials. This forensic technology uniquely identifies the wire, making theft easy to detect. Brown has his theories as to why thieves target copper.
It's definitely a problem. There's people running around stealing, and I think a lot of it is drug related. People stealing copper to sell so they can feed the drug habit.
Copper theft damages more than plastic casing. It can also cause thousands of dollars in damages. It can even cost someone their life. In 2008, while a man was cutting wires at a substation, he was electrocuted. For Stu Journalism, I'm Hillary Page Smith.
Our province recently felt the pain of a little boy whose parents died when they hit a moose on the highway. Wildlife fencing is supposed to keep moose off the road. Lauren Bird brings us the story of a father who wants fencing on the highway where his daughter died.
These deer are only a few hundred feet from a section of wildlife fencing along a New Brunswick highway. In the past 3 years, more than 300 kilometers of fencing has been erected in the province. Kevin Culberson lost his 16-year-old daughter Emily in a collision with a moose 4 years ago.
The one issue for me is in particular relating to our own experience is that there is no fencing still on that particular highway because it's not considered to be a hot spot by the records of accident reports dealing with moose and deer. And so I guess my concern at this point is just thinking what determines a hot spot.
A road must have had at least 15 collisions in the last 5 years to be considered a hot spot. Andrew Holland, spokesman for the Department of Transportation, explains.
You have to know exactly where are the most accidents taking place, where are the most dangerous sections or the most at-risk areas of highway are in the province of New Brunswick. And from there, we can analyze and assess how feasible it is to put up a fence.
Although the fences greatly reduce the risk of animal-vehicle collisions, they cannot keep all wildlife off the road. The best way to stay safe is to be aware.
The best teacher is experience. And so, will we teach everybody? No, we won't. Not at all. But definitely we can inform and trust and hope that they don't have to experience what we've experienced.
For Stu Journalism, I'm Lauren Bird.